Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining today. This is your host Nino, greeting you live from the kitchen and being in a somewhat difficult position. For an experiment went too well. The good news about this is that in a moment you shall see something demonstrated that is rather amazing and very privacy friendly. The bad news is that past Nino, which you will see in the future, will be declaring that this is utterly impossible and he will be wrong. But to quote Homer Simpson, that's a problem of future Nino. I don't envy that guy. And the question is about direct modem connections via analog modems, the way it was done in the past via landlines. If you think of it, this was a very privacy-friendly arrangement compared to what you have nowadays. Yes, you were using a public phone network, and theoretically your phone provider could have been listening in on you in some fashion. Compare that to nowadays, where if you use modems over voice over IP solutions, you're having the voice over IP provider or providers, which might be different. If you use messengers, there's the messenger provider. Every day we read of a new scandal about data collection, data disclosure, data misuse, or whatever. So there are a lot of people nowadays which are standing between the connection of two parties rather than these two parties really enjoying a genuine direct connection, the way it was quite usual in the past. So I was wondering, isn't there some way to connect these over the mobile network? And it turned out that there is an entire class of devices of which I was blissfully unaware, so-called fixed wireless terminals. And this is just one example, there exist many others. But fixed wireless terminals are very simple devices, apparently used in industry and in particular in the provision of alarm systems. Their sole raison d'etre being the channeling of a mobile network, behind here is a SIM card, to an analog phone connection. So you see it has here two phone connections, many models have just one. And if you have a landline phone and connect it to a fixed wireless terminal, then it will be able to be addressed and call out via the SIM card. Brilliant when you think of it. Except that it has the difficulty of working, at least in the present variant I have, over the 2G network, which is presenting very bad quality for voice communications of the nature we're interested in, for we shall not be transmitting human voice but machine signals, and the codecs are not optimized for those at all. So I was quite sure that using fixed wireless terminals will prove difficult, if not impossible, over 2G at least. But then it turned out that if you stick to professional ELSA modems, and this is certainly the ones I am recommending, anything above 28.8 kilobit per second will work expectably very nicely. These are apparently good enough. It turns out to be a piece of cake. Enjoy the demonstration. This, ladies and gentlemen, shall be today's setup. Simple indeed, straightforward, and a bit more contemporaneous than in some other experiments. What you see there behind are the fixed wireless terminals. They're both active, the SIM cards in them have made contact with the network, and they are providing a telephone line each to a respective modem. The modems, in turn, are connected in the end via DB9 to RS-232 adapters to the two laptops. The laptops, one a Linux machine, one a macOS machine, are both running a piece of software called Picocom, and Picocom is being called with such a command line on Linux, and very analogously with such a command line on macOS. Take note that the macOS serial adapter has such a CU something name, and If you're interested in Unix history, I assume that the CU is from call Unix. Anyway, so these are our values, and after having called up picocom in order to communicate with the modem, you see here two identical setup strings, both for Linux and for Mac OS. The only difference being that in Mac OS I forgot where the backslash was, so I had to put this one AT command separately. But things are really analogous. So we're now in a position where next I shall be dialing from one machine to the other, and with a bit of luck, the negotiation will work out correctly and we'll have a connection. Let's see whether this works as planned. Ready to call. Alrighty then, so we are having here connect 300, and if I now type on the Macintosh, hello there my dear viewers, you should be able to see that on the Linux machine. Hello there, my dear viewers. Now you can see this does not work exactly ideally. Let's try then what will happen if this modem calls that modem. Sometimes the connection is not symmetric and works better if the one calls the other rather than vice versa. And action. Alright, take also note of the fact that this time I turned off the Bell 103 setting and returned it to V21 setting by saying ATB0 rather than ATB1. And now, and now, yeah, things look a lot better. So that is a warning I have mentioned before. Rather stick to V21 rather than to Bell 103 if you want to have a more reliable connection. Of course, rather than a direct chat, it would not be difficult to let the one laptop issue a shell access to the other. This just serves to demonstrate that it is entirely possible to connect really modem to modem over the GSM 2G, primitive 2G network. I am delighted and surprised, and this I already regard as a completely successful conduct of the endeavor of directly connecting two computers. Fully unexpected to me to work that well, actually, and opening the door wide for a couple of years of extra privacy should anyone wish to have his or her own truly direct connection. And the proof is in the pudding. If we again call from the one to the other where we were having the character errors, but we are using V21 encoding. Will we this time still have such issues? Or will things be a little bit more civilized? So we're having again connect 300. Hello there. So that truly proves that V21 is just simply more stable. It just works better that way. Indeed. For the sake of completeness, let us just briefly again review the setup strings which are used with the modems, and in this case compare them with strings that I have shown in the previous experiments. So nearly everything stays the same, just instead of K3 we are using K0, so we are removing some error checking. And we are using G1, which gives us a carrier tone of 550 Hertz. Also, it is not unimportant whether you use Bell 103 or V21 encoding. Use V21 with ATB0 for modern modems. That is the default. And that really wraps it up for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Hope to greet you here soon again for further adventures. If you're not yet a member of our friendly and curious community, please consider joining our delightful little club. Until we meet again, I wish you a wonderful time. See you hopefully soon. And from me, goodbye.